write your own efficiency features. I gave that presentation at the last NIWeek in 2018. There's another bit.ly that tells you all about that. So writing your own LabVIEW features, I talked about last year. That's at bit.ly dnat.lv oops. So what I will be talking about today is I will be talking about things you can do while editing LabVIEW programs to make you more efficient as a programmer. There's 2 seats right here. I will be talking about how to debug your LabVIEW programs more efficiently. We do spend a lot of time writing LabVIEW code, but we also spend a lot of time debugging LabVIEW code. And there are some things that you can do to debug your code more efficiently. I'm also going to talk about using existing functionality that's in LabVIEW that you just don't know about. There are ways that you have programmed in LabVIEW for many years, probably, and you haven't taken the time to learn about some of the newer features in LabVIEW that can help you do those things that you're used to doing a certain way more efficiently. Now, I didn't intend for this to happen, but it turns out that this presentation probably has more what's new in LabVIEW 2019 content than the what's new in LabVIEW 2019 presentation being given at NIWeek 3 times this year. So if you are interested in what's new in the latest release of LabVIEW, it turns out I talk about that a lot in this presentation. That wasn't my original intent, but we added a ton of great, efficient programming tools into LabVIEW 2019. I felt this was the place to talk about it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is editing LabVIEW documents. So anytime you are adding something, removing something, modifying something, configuring something, that's what I'm referring to when I say editing. Now, there are a lot of document types in LabVIEW. We usually talk about the DI, but you've also got the project and the library, the class, and type defs. Now, when you're editing in LabVIEW, I thought about this a lot, and it turns out that we can generalize the type of editing you do in the LabVIEW editor into 3 arenas. The first arena is a tree. So if you're working in the project window, or if you have a library open by itself, you're working in a tree. Now, typically when you're working in a tree, you're moving 1D, you're going up and down, and you're typically using your mouse. You're expanding things, right-clicking on things, selecting things. Another arena where you make edits is a dialog. So if you're setting the VI properties, you're setting the class properties, typically you've got a 2D space where you're typically moving your mouse around on finite objects within that 2D space, clicking on them, things like that. But then you've got a canvas. So the block diagram and the front panel are the canvases in LabVIEW. And when you're working in a canvas, you're going to be using your mouse. You're going to be using your keyboard. It's an arbitrary space. You can drop an object anywhere on a block diagram. It's not a finite list of things. Now, tree editing and dialog editing, I mean, there's a few minor things you can do, like some dialogs you can tab around instead of using your mouse. Maybe that's a little bit more efficient. But there's not much I can talk to you about how to make working in a tree or in a dialog more efficient. But the canvas, there are so many things we can do in the canvas to program more efficiently. And that's what our first demo is going to be about. So I'm going to pull up my chair here. And I'm going to be demoing a lot of things on the LabVIEW block diagram. Don't worry, I've got a summary slide after this that summarizes all the things that I talked about. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about, it probably should come as no surprise, is QuickDrop. So I wrote QuickDrop in LabVIEW in LabVIEW 8.6, so which came out in 2008. So we've had QuickDrop for 11 years. I still see people who don't utilize the full power of QuickDrop. So I insist on talking about it no matter how much people get sick of hearing me talk about it, because I guarantee for most of the people in this room, I'm about to show you something that you either didn't realize you could do or something that you forgot that I showed you 10 years ago and you're going to remember again now. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about why we have QuickDrop in the first place. Let's say I need to write some code that uses TCP. So I need to drop a TCP open connection function. Now, let's try to do that with the palettes. I will try to hold in my lunch. All right, so let's see. This is I'm connecting to TCP, right? So okay, none of this stuff looks like it has anything to do with TCP. All right, wait. Data communication protocols. That's right. I remember. Also, it helps that protocols has a little tiny TCP there. Okay, so I come over here, and that took me entirely too long to find that stupid function. I started in the wrong palette entirely, and I had to go find the other one. But I eventually found it. Now, if I press Control Space and bring up Quick Drop, I know I want a TCP function, right? Maybe I don't remember exactly that it's called TCP Open Connection. Maybe it was TCP Connect or TCP Initialize. I don't remember, but I know I can type in TCP. Once I type that in, the list is filtered for me enough that I can say, oh yeah, that's right, TCP Open Connection, that's the one I want, and I can double click on it and drop it. Now, the thing is that I could say, I only needed a couple letters to start seeing the TCP items in Quick Drop. So what I can do is now that I see, let's see, my next function I want is TCP write, so I can just double click on it and get it over here. Let's see, I want to do TCP read, so I'll go ahead and double click on that. And I can do a TCP close, and I can double click on it. All right, so I only needed to type a couple of characters. I didn't need to go through that palette hell to try to find the thing that I wanted. Now I could have pinned the palette, right? But again, I had to find the palette that I needed in the first place. If you know the name, or even if you're close to knowing the name of the thing that you want, there's no reason you should be sifting through a graphical representation of things. LabVIEW's graphical, right? That's awesome. Well, you still know the names of stuff. So you can still type a few characters on your keyboard to get a graphical thing on your block diagram that you can then program with. Now, there's something else in Quick Drop where you can just type in a few characters for shortcuts to things. For example, there's a shortcut for property node that's RN. So instead of typing property node until it auto-completes, I can just type in the shortcut that I know. Now, the thing is that you have to know these shortcuts. And a while back, you had to download shortcuts from NI.com, or you had to create your own. Well, starting in LabVIEW 2016, we shipped a default set of object shortcuts in Quick Drop. So without downloading anything on NI.com, without making your own things, you can type in RN for property node, CS for case structure, AD1 for increment, get it? You can type in X for multiply, get it? See, so we tried to make them intuitive, but it still takes some work to get used to them. But once you get used to them, I program LabVIEW 8 hours a day at NI, and I would say 80% of the objects I drop on a block diagram have an object shortcut associated with them, so I don't even have to think. It's just part of the way I program now. So yeah, RN for property node, NV for invoke node. So the question is, how do I remember RN stands for property node? Well, I've dropped probably about 10,000 of them, so that helps. So normally when you're programming with LabVIEW, sorry to those of you who are lefties or use Dvorak keyboards or some other weird thing, but you've typically got your left hand right here on the keyboard, your right hand's typically over here on the mouse. Again, it's not everybody, but it's most of us. All right? Now if I had to type in, say, P in property node, right? Well, the P is over here on the keyboard, so my mouse hand would have to come over, type the P. We don't want that. We want the vast majority of things that we're dropping with Quick Drop to be typable with your left hand, because another thing that I probably told you and you forgot is there's something called Super Quick Drop. I'm going to bring up Quick Drop, and I'm going to type in RN. Now notice, my hand is not on the keyboard. I'm clicking on the diagram with my mouse. I didn't have to press enter. I didn't have to double click in Quick Drop. Once Quick Drop said the name of the thing I wanted, I click in my VI and that thing gets dropped right there. That's Super Quick Drop. So if you're typing everything with this hand and your mouse is here, your hand never has to move over. Your Control Space RN click, move your mouse. Control Space CS click. Your left hand staying on the keyboard, your right hand staying on the mouse. That's why we have most of our Quick Drop shortcuts typable with the left hand only. All right. So yeah, that's Quick Drop for dropping objects. Now, several of you, if you didn't get injured, received a Quick Drop mouse pad from me when I threw it at you earlier before my presentation started. On that mouse pad, if you have one, sorry if you don't, I only came with 20 of them, not 200 of them. It lists all of the Quick Drop object shortcuts. The Quick Drop keyboard shortcuts. Now, I am a LabVIEW programmer, just like all of you. I have never written a line of C code in my life. So when I figured out a way to add my own features to LabVIEW with G code, I did it a ton, and that's what all these things are. So once you press Control Space and Quick Drop is up, you can press Control key shortcuts to do things like Control T, Control D, Control R. And I'm going to demo a few of those right now. So let's see. Let me drop another invoke node just for fun. So here's a property node. Now, you use property nodes when you do VI server programming, right? So let's say I'm writing a VI that is going to manipulate a menu ring on the front panel. So I'm talking about like one of these guys right here. So I'm going to write a VI that's maybe going to like populate that thing or hide it and show it. I don't know what it's going to do. But in order to do that, in my sub VI that's going to get the reference, I need to work on properties of the ring class. So let's set that property node to the ring class, shall we? Select class. Now I'm going to lose some of you guys throughout this, by the way. So if the person next to you starts nodding off, give them a shake, look them up. VI server, generic, G-object. We're about halfway through, so hold on. Control, numeric, named numeric, ring! I program VI server all the time, and I knew exactly where that was, and it still took me like 10, 15 seconds to get there. If you guys aren't as familiar with the VI server hierarchy, which you probably aren't compared to me, it's going to take you way longer to find stuff in that stupid list, right? Yeah, you can find stuff you're not supposed to find, maybe. So I knew I wanted to work on a ring, right? Why can't I just tell LabVIEW, make that ring? I can. Control space, I type in ring, and I press Control V, and it does a class rename of that property node. So if you know the names of things, now QuickDraw doesn't autocomplete those yet. I would like for it to. It doesn't. You have to know the exact right name to type in. So that's one disadvantage. But still, it's better than going through that whole menu hell, right? Similarly, let's say I'm writing code to make the ring visible. So I click here, and all right, it's alphabetical, right? So here, stay awake. Visible, there it is. All right. Once again, quick drop. You control space and type visible and press Control Shift B, and it will change the property or the method. This also works for LabVIEW class properties. If you program with LabVIEw classes and you want to specify the name of an accessor and you know what it is, do this instead of looking through the list. Also, new in LabVIEW 2019, you can use this for dotted properties. So that didn't used to work. Setting like label.txt, I couldn't do that. Now I can. So LabVIEW 2019 set dotted properties now. So Control B, Control Shift B. Again, there will be a summary slide. If you happen to get a mouse pad, it's also on there. All right, so let's say that this is not a typical diagram, I will admit. You typically don't have property nodes and file I/O and TCP happening in parallel. But you might have file I/O and DACMX happening in parallel, right? That's pretty common. So if I wanted to wire all these things together, that is about 20-something wires and about 40-something clicks to wire all those things together. Alternatively, it is one button press. So Control Space, Control W will auto-wire objects. Usually you're doing that in a single line, but as you can see, it also works in parallel. It also works for things like this, and if instead of pressing Control W, press Control Shift W, it'll do a diagram cleanup in addition to wiring the objects together. Again, this is all summarized in the slides. But yeah, these are just those types of things that I wrote most of these. I know they're there. I use them on a regular basis. If you guys start using them on a regular basis, you will become a more efficient LabVIEW programmer. If you find yourself wiring, like you've got a series of file I/O nodes and you start doing this, hopefully you or somebody next to you will say, hey, wait a minute, remember Control W? That will just wire the whole thing for you. That's what I'm hoping we can get out of this. All right, another thing is using QuickDrop to insert objects on wires. So typically, when you insert things on wires, you go right-click, right? And you do insert, and now, oh crap, we're in the palettes. Well, Darren told me that the palettes suck, so there's probably a better way to do this, right? That's what you should be thinking. So you can press Control I. So let's say I want to insert an increment on that wire right there. I can Control Space, add one, Control I, and it'll do an insert. Now that's pretty much the same as the right-click insert, but QuickDrop, is my screen okay? Yeah. QuickDrop lets you insert multiple things on multiple wires at once. So I'm going to insert an increment on both of those wires. That's not anything you can do with the right-click insert. You can only do that with QuickDrop. Now, another thing that you probably want to do very often is you've got a string of nodes like those up there with the train tracks, and you want to stick something on that string of nodes, right? Like let's say I want to put a property node right on these two wires. Well, if you select those and you do property node and do Control I, that's not what you want. You don't want two property nodes, you want one property node. So in that case, you're going to do Control Shift I. So if I select both of those Control space, RN, Control Shift I. That's going to insert a single node on that single train track of wires. Again, Quick Drop lets you do these things that other editor features don't let you do. Okay? Now, this next one is probably the world's favorite Quick Drop shortcut. It's one of the ones that came in first. Let's say you realize you don't need this invoke node and this property node, and you try to delete them. Now you got this mess of wires. You got to go click and rewire everything. You don't need to do that because you can press Control Space Control R. That's probably people's favorite out of all the Quick Drop plugins. You pick things on your diagram that you don't want anymore, but you want to preserve the wires that are going through them. Use Control Space Control R for that. Let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's do a replace. So I'm writing code. I realize that these two property nodes should be invoke nodes instead, so I select them both. Control P does a replace. And unlike a right-click replace where that only works on one thing, Quick Drop replace, again, can work on one or more things. Question? Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, I think, before you got here. Again, I'm not talking about things you can download, but apparently Jurg is talking about things you can download. There's a Quick Drop plugin that will let you replace and insert things off of the clipboard. That doesn't ship with LabVIEW. At some point, I'd like for it to. There's a few little weird things about that plugin that make me not comfortable shipping it as a feature, but if we can get those ironed out, maybe we can do that at a later time. All right, then one more thing. I always like to talk about match pattern. I am not an expert at regular expressions. They frighten and confuse me as if I were a caveman. But match pattern is simple. You ever look at the help for match pattern? It's got like 8 things it can do. And those things are almost always, I need to do one of those things. So I like match pattern, but I never remember what the little things are that it does. Like the caret, I think, will match the beginning of the string, and the $sign will match at the end, and then you can use brackets to say you want to match multiple things. I always have to play around with the function a little bit before I remember, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. So what I end up doing is I end up dropping a match pattern, and prior to what I'm about to show you, I would right-click on each terminal and do create, control, create indicator until I could just play with the function. Well, Control Space Control D in Quick Drop will just splat down all of the controls and indicators for the node or nodes that you selected on the diagram. So it's a really quick way to get all of the things wired up to the node that you're working on. Control Space Control Shift D will create constants. So if you need constants on the node, we'll make those. And then this next one is not documented, so only people that come listen to me will know about it. If you type in Control Space and you type in REQ for required, and then press Control Shift D, it'll only make the required constants or the required controls. Again, these are things that if you're creating constants, controls, and indicators, which I know you all are all the time, and you know all these tricks, it's going to make you that much faster as you program in LabVIEW. I don't need to repeat anything because it's all in the slides. All right, so to summarize, I'm not going to talk through every single one of these things because y'all are all going to bit.ly/LabVIEW speed and downloading these slides later. But these are all the things I talked about, and all of them are on the mouse pads if you were lucky enough to get one of those earlier. Sorry, I wish I had more, but I could only get my hands on 20. All right, so now I'm going to talk about things that are in LabVIEW 2019 specifically that will help you program faster in LabVIEW. This is the part where you guys are going to get excited and you're going to want to install LabVIEW 2019 as soon as possible. Yeah, start now. You'll be done by the keynote tomorrow. Okay. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I have been wanting in LabVIEW since version 5.0. And we have it in 2019. And I'm going to show you, and you're going to be like, what's the big deal about that?
20 years.
But then you're going to think of it, and you're going to be like, oh, wait, that's awesome. And what it is when you right-click on a terminal, look at those first 3 items there on that list. Create constant, create control, create indicator. Those are not buried in this menu anymore. Well, technically they are, but they're also, whoops, technically they are, but they're also at the top. I create constants and control, mainly constants, controls and indicators, some, but mainly constants, dozens of times a day, hundreds of times a day. And for the past 18 years, it has bugged me that I had to go to a stupid right-click pull right to get to that thing I do 100 times a day. Well, I don't have to go to a pull right anymore because they are all at the top of the list now. So that includes, so that was a terminal that I right-clicked on, that includes right-clicking on a wire. Now, I got some pushback about this one. Because, in my opinion, if you have a data type on a block diagram, whether that's a constant, a control terminal, an unwired terminal on something, a wire, if you have a data type, you should always be able to make a constant control or indicator of that data type when you see that data type. So for that reason, I insisted that we put those 3 menu items at the very top anytime you right-click on anything that is a data type, which is a wire or a terminal. Now I got some pushback on this from people who really like cleanup wire. Prior to this change in LabVIEW 2019, people would right-click on a wire and the first thing they saw on the list was cleanup wire. And during the 2019 beta, people said, hey, cleanup wire's not at the top anymore, now I gotta go down. And I got all these complaints, I was like, wait a minute, give it some time. Some people gave it some time, they're like, okay, you're right, I can get used to this. But I got some other people saying, no, I want cleanup wire at the top. And so I thought about that, and where I was like, no, you don't want cleanup wire at the top, you just don't like change. Because, here's the deal. You see that messed up wire right there? You're right, I could right-click on that and do cleanup wire. But you know what else I could do? I can press Control U. Control U, when you have a wire selected, does cleanup wire. Just use your keyboard. You're supposed to be using your keyboard more anyway because you're listening to me talk about quick drop. So just press Control U. And when you have multiple wires selected, cleanup wire's not there anymore, but Control U will still clean up all of those wires. So my answer to those of you who don't like me messing with your wire right-click menu is, you shouldn't even be showing the menu in the first place. You should be pressing Control U to clean up your wires. You should be right-clicking on a wire or a terminal so that you can see Create Constant Control Indicator at the top of the list. All right? No more arguing with me. All right, so here's another one. This one came from the LabVIEW ID Exchange. If you ever work with color data types, you're changing the colors of things on the front panel or whatever it is, it's really annoying when you do Create Control or Create Constant and it gives you back numeric U32s. It doesn't anymore. So I'm going to right-click on this terminal and do Create Constant, again at the top of the menu because that's where it's supposed to be. And as you can see, I got some color constants now instead of U32s. Same thing with Create Control and Create Indicator. If we go to the front panel, we'll see, oh wow, there's a bunch of junk here. But yeah, there's the color there too. Here. We need this panel to be clean for a later demo, so we're going to move on here. All right, so you've got the conversion bullets, right? This is another ID Exchange request. You can right-click and there's now Replace Conversion. So you can replace one or more conversion bullets with another conversion bullet. This next feature comes to you courtesy of Jeff Godosky, who walked over to my desk and said, hey, can you add this feature for me? And I said, yes. He saw the bullet thing and he was like, I want that for comparison functions. So now if you right-click on one or more comparison functions, you get Replace Comparison, and you can replace with one of the comparison functions. Now, Jeff Godosky is the father of LabVIEW, so I do the things that he asks me. He's not a quick draw programmer. So if anybody else had come to my desk and said, hey, I want to replace multiple conversions with another one, I would have said Control space less than Control P. But I'm not going to tell Jeff K that. I'm going to add this right now. All right, this is another ID Exchange one. Right-click a selection and do Create Cluster from Selection. Also works on the front panel as well. So drop a bunch of controls on the front panel. These are all features in LabVIEW 2019. I want to keep repeating. Did somebody have, Matthias, are you saying something back there?
How is it ordered?
How's it ordered? I don't remember. I don't think it's random, and I'm inclined to say I do look at the positions of them, but I don't remember exactly. That's something you can play with and find out. All right. Another ID Exchange post, I think this one came from Christian. Right-click on an array terminal and do Create Scalar. And you can create a scalar constant or a scalar control. Because a lot of the times, like in this example that we have here on this diagram, you've got a polymorphic terminal that is adapted to the array type, but you don't want the array type, you want the scalar of that type. So, and then, let's see, I think the next one, yes, my favorite feature in LabVIEW 2019 is Clean Up Front Panel. Let me go ahead and demonstrate how that works. So I'm going to very quickly create a front panel here. We've got some TCP functions wired up together. Let's make some controls for things that we want people to wire into this VI. They're going to set up their TCP connection. They're going to write. They're going to read. Let's see, we also want to have errors. Okay, so here's my front panel. The question is, why wasn't I using Quick Drop right there? Exactly, so there is a reason. I always have a reason. My kids ask me questions and I immediately come up with an answer and they're like, you just made that up. I'm like, no, there's a reason for everything. Yeah, I didn't want that terminal and that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. And since LabVIEW 2019 puts these things in such an easy location for me to create, it was very quick for me to do that. All right, so if you guys are done distracting me, let me go ahead and set up my connector pane here. So the errors go down there, because that's where errors go. And we've got the address and port, and we've got this port over here. This looks kind of ugly, but I'll just put the data in and the data out right there for now. And I'm going to press Control-U on the front panel, and it cleaned it up. It made the front panel match my connector pane. It also positioned the window. I can't stand it when I get a VI from somebody and I open it up, and it opens up on the screen way the hell over here. All right? So when you do clean up front panel, in addition to making your panel look like your connector pane, it also positions it in the top left corner of your primary monitor. Question from your... Yeah, so the question is, wasn't there something you could download from NI.com that does this? Yes, there was a Quick Drop plugin that did that. And now it is a built-in Control-U, just like Control-U on the block diagram. No Quick Drop required to do this. Another question?
What happens to any controls which aren't connected to
The question is, what about controls that aren't on the COM pane? Those get arranged underneath all the ones that are on the COM pane, and they get arranged in a nice column. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? But what if I realized that I need to make a change to the connector pane? I realized that I needed the timeout terminal, and I forgot to put it on there. So I'm going to do create control on that. And while I'm here, this COM pane is stupid. The data in and out should not be on the top, they should be on the sides. So how many of you guys, I'm hoping that this is new to some of you guys, do you see my tool up there turning from the wiring tool to a little spool? If you hold down control while you're editing a COM pane, you can swap connector pane positions. So I can't remember the last time I right-clicked and did disconnect this terminal, because I don't do that anymore. I click on a terminal and I control-click and it moves it over to that new spot. If you click to another one that's already occupied, it'll swap them around. So control-click on the COM pane. That's not a new feature. It's been around forever. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's really useful when you're managing the COM pane of the VI. So anyway, where was I? Let's see. Let's put the data over here, and then I have that new timeout, right? Let's see, I don't think the local port should go there. I think it should go up here, and I think the timeout should go there. And now I press Control-U again, and it has rearranged my front panel to once again match the connector pane. So when you mess with the COM pane of the VI, just a quick Control-U will get that front panel looking like the COM pane arrangement again. This is my favorite feature in LabVIEW 2019. I spend a lot of time managing the front panels of my sub-VIs, and I shouldn't have to do that. If I'm messing with the front panel, it's because it's a front panel that somebody is seeing. But at the same time, I don't want my sub-VI panels to look stupid or ugly. So I want them to look nice, so I spend the time to make them look nice, and now it's a key press to make sub-VI front panels look nice. My favorite feature of LabVIEW 2019. All right, so, doing good on time. Summary of my demo. My favorite feature, then there's the control click that hopefully some of you guys learned about, and hopefully you're going to remember that because it's way better than right-click, disconnect, and then reconnecting the new terminal. So we've got the create options on the top of the menus, and I insist that that is a good change to the editor, and all of you are going to get used to it. And the reason is because I think it's very important to have a consistent way to create a constant controller indicator from any data type that you see on a block diagram. If you see the data type, it should be a brainless quick operation to make a constant controller indicator of that data type. It might take some getting used to, especially when you're right-clicking on something like a wire that has that thing that you used to pick all the time at the top of the list. So I want you to give it some time. When LabVIEW 6.1 came out and the auto tool came out, it was universally hated. But we made it better, and we kept telling people, try it out, try it, keep trying with the auto tool, keep trying to get used to it. And it got better in LabVIEW 7, it got better in LabVIEW 7.1, it got better in LabVIEW 8.0, and like the auto tool, most of us use it at this point. Some of us don't, which is fine, but if you use it and you get used to it, chances are you're going to start using it. Quick Drop, same thing. I had to bribe people with mouse pads to get them to try Quick Drop for a week or two. But most of those who do end up sticking with it because it's more efficient to use in the editor. After you give it some time, give it some more time, because I still insist that this is where these right-click menu options should be. However, if you give it time and you give it more time, and you still don't like the create constant, create control, and create indicator, are at the top of all your right clicks, there is an escape hatch for you. You are a curmudgeon. I will refer to you as that to your face. I will think of this picture every time I talk to you. But I have given you that INI token that you can add to remove those from the top of the menu and make the menus just like they were from LabVIEW 5.1 to LabVIEW 2018 with those stupid create things in the pull right that you have to pick hundreds of times a day. Yes, you can still do that with this INI token. All right, so let's talk about debugging. We spend a lot of time editing our VIs, as we just talked about before, but we also spend a lot of time debugging our VIs. Now, most of the time when debugging, we're talking about using probes and we're talking about using breakpoints, right? Now, probes and breakpoints are temporary things. Unfortunately, breakpoints are saved with the VI. I don't think they should be, but they are. But in terms of how you think of them, probes and breakpoints are a temporary tool that you use when you're debugging. Once you're finished debugging, they tend to go away, right? Now, most of the time, if you're not thinking about it, you're using right-click menus a lot to set up your probes, to set up your breakpoints. And there are more efficient ways to debug in LabVIEW than what you might be doing currently. So I'm going to do a demo for that. All right, so here's the VI. And let's say I need to debug this VI. For whatever reason, my graphs aren't looking like they're supposed to be looking, so I need to debug this VI. So I'm probably going to end up probing some wires. So how do we typically do that if we're just used to doing things how we've always done them? We right-click, we do probe, and we get a probe over here in the probe watch window, right? So I might right-click and create multiple probes. There's another one. So same thing with breakpoints, right? If I need to pause the VI right here, I might right-click, go to breakpoint, set breakpoint, and let's see, it got added there. Then I might right-click on another wire, breakpoint, set breakpoint. So you shouldn't have to do those right-clicks most of the time, and that's because there are tools for setting a probe and setting a breakpoint. So most of us use the auto tool, but if you shift right-click, you get a temporary tools palette. Hey guys, we're presenting. If you shift right-click, you get a tools palette. So in the tools palette, check these two tools out right here. There's a probe tool and there's a breakpoint tool. So if you plan on setting a lot of breakpoints, let me close this real quick. If you plan on setting a lot of breakpoints, switch to the breakpoint tool, and you can start setting breakpoints on things without having to go to that right-click menu. Notice that the breakpoint tool turns from black to white when it's over something that already has a breakpoint, so that's a quick way for you to turn a breakpoint off or on. But I shouldn't have to right-click all the time to make these breakpoints when I've got this tool that can make it very easy. Again, so how to bring up the tools palette is shift right-click. So if you shift right-click in an empty space, a temporary tools palette comes up. I typically use this for probes, breakpoints, and the paintbrush. Right now I'm talking about debugging, so I'm not going to paint anything, but that's typically what I bring it up for. So yeah, then you've got the probe tool that you can, again, set probes on things, and those are all start coming up. So let's say that I've gone through my code and I've gone crazy with this whole probe tool that Darren was telling me about in his presentation. I've gone crazy with these breakpoints. Here's a VI that I'm going to bring up my breakpoint tool and set a bunch of breakpoints everywhere on VIs and diagrams and nodes. And let's see, we'll come back over here and look in this sub-VI, and oh yeah, there's some things I want to set some breakpoints on in here. Ooh, call library, no, that's scary. Oh wait, I can't set them in here as debugging's turned off. Let's see, how about this guy? Oh, he already has a bunch. All right, so there's a bunch of breakpoints all over this code. I'm setting those breakpoints because I'm trying to debug something, right? I need the code to pause so I can look at what's going on, and I've ended up setting a bunch of breakpoints. Now there is this tool called the Breakpoint Manager. I don't like this tool and I never use it. Instead, I use remove breakpoints from hierarchy. So that's in your edit pull-down menu. So after you have finished debugging and you've got breakpoints everywhere, just go pick that menu option and it will give you a summary of where all the breakpoints were removed. And now all the breakpoints in that VI, all of its sub-VIs, all of the clones of its sub-VIs, if you're doing the 3 and 2 VIs, they'll all be gone. You can get a little summary here. So that's instead of going and trying to find all the breakpoints that you set to remove them, just use that menu item. It's much faster. Yes, question? So the question is, if you're in a sub-VI and you do that tool, does it go up? No, it starts wherever you've selected the menu option and goes down. So the question is, could we have it go through like your whole project? I suppose we could, but for now, it just starts and goes down. All right, so another tool that I often use is retain wire values. So that's this little button up here next to the light bulb. So a lot of times something's going wrong with my code, but I don't know where to look. I just know that something's wrong. So what I'll end up doing is I'll turn on retain wire values, and I'll run my code, and then without having set any probes, again, I'm shift right clicking to bring up the tools palette. And now I can go probe some wires, and you can see the contents of those wires are coming up in my probe window. So whatever value last flowed through that wire. So LabVIEW kept all of those values for me, so then I can go set, we call them after probes sometimes. You can probe wires after the data's gone through them. So I'm a big fan of those. Also, one thing I want to mention that I forgot to mention a few minutes ago is, so when you shift right click and bring up the tools palette temporarily and switch to another tool, if you want to get back to the auto tool, which you probably do, shift tab is going to switch back to the auto tool. So that's the trick that I use when I've got tools palette up, I have to pick a tool, paintbrush, probe tool, whatever, and I need to get back to the auto tool, shift tab is going to take you back to the auto tool. All right, so let's see, what else do I want to show? Oh, this change happened in LabVIEW a couple releases ago, and not everybody knows about it. When you used to probe things like arrays, you would see one array element in the probe window. As you can see now, the array will fit the probe window when you resize it, so it's a really easy way to see multiple items. And we also show the scroll bar there as well. That change went in maybe 3 or 4 releases ago, but a lot of people don't realize that it was in. So probing arrays, and strings too. If you probe a string and you resize, the string will get bigger. David, question?
Back to the retain wire values one. Is there a reason that's not on by default?
So the question is, why is retain wire values not on by default? It's because now LabVIEW is keeping all of the values that went through every wire on the block diagram. That's going to use up more memory. It also requires debugging hooks to be on. Your VI is going to be more efficient when you have that turned off. We thought about making some tools to like turn it on for a hierarchy and then turn it off. We haven't made any of those tools yet, but it's something I'd like to do eventually. Another question?
So when the VI is executing, you can have a control and left mouse click to add breakpoints. Can we not do that when the VI is not running?
The question was about using the tools palette when the VI is running?
No, so when the VI is running, you can go to any of the wires and you can just do the control and the left mouse click to add breakpoints. Can we not just have something like that when it is not running?
Okay, so the question is, there's a debugging tool while the VI is running to very quickly set breakpoints with a control click on a wire. I didn't even know you could do that. It seems like that would be nice, though, to be able to do that at any time. Okay, so what else do we want to talk about? Yes?
For the probes, where you have an array of elements, you the radius. How do you do that?
So the question is, you've got an array like this one that we showed here, and you would like to change the radix of those so that you can see them in hex or something like that. So you can't do that with the built-in probes, but you can make a custom probe. So custom probes, I'm going to demo one here in a second, but it's very easy to make a G-based probe that you write with LabVIEW code that looks however you want it to look in there, including setting radixes and whatever else you want to do. But yeah, the built-in probes don't have that. All right. Oh, was there another question? No? Another question, and I'm going to move on.
Breakpoint tool, clicking on any space block diagram, breakpoint LabVIEW,
Yes.
which is really easy to miss. I had a call on and I was in, and it took me forever to solve.
All right, so Nate wants you guys to know that he's not very good at seeing a red border on a block diagram. All right, so real quick, let me show you guys another tool that is a great debugging tool that a lot of people don't realize is a debugging tool. So when you're debugging, you've got lots of windows open, right? You've set breakpoints in your sub-VIs, you've set probes in your sub-VIs, and now you've figured out the issue, and you've got 50 VI windows open, and you need to go start closing them, right? There is a feature, I forget what the official name of it is, but I call it the window manager in LabVIEW. Control-Shift-W launches this guy, which shows all of your open VIs. And check it out. I know my code, but I see a bunch of NI sub-VIs there. Those are the ones that I opened up debugging. I don't need to look at those anymore. I found my issue. I set my probes. I figured out what's going on. So what I can do is I can pick a bunch of things in this list by shift-clicking and control-clicking and do close windows. And it'll close all those windows for me with just a few clicks. So I don't have to go down into this list down here and try to manage it when it becomes a big giant list that you have to scroll through. This guy right here, the all windows view in LabVIEW, it makes it really handy to close out some of those temporary VIs that you opened while you were debugging. Control-Shift-W. All right, now, in LabVIEW 2019, we added a couple of new custom probes. Not the radix on the array, but some other stuff, which is really neat. Now, the thing about custom probes is you do have to go to the right-click menus. So, sorry about that. But if I go in here and I do, and this one was from the ID Exchange, right-click, custom probe, toggle execution highlighting. So that is something that's been asked for on the ID Exchange for a long time. So I set a toggle there at the beginning of the for loop and there at the end of the for loop. Now when I run the VI, you'll notice I have not set the light bulb. But if I run the VI, execution highlighting started once we got into the loop. So the loop's going to execute. You're going to see your bubbles. I don't personally use execution highlighting, but I know a lot of people do. So, see, yeah, and so does Steven. So it's cool. But notice, check it out. Once it hit the second one, it turned it off and then kept running the code. So this is a way you can get those conditional execution highlighting in your code now with this custom probe. And then one more custom probe I want to show you guys. Yes, in LabVIEW 2019. Here's another one that's built into LabVIEW 2019. So this is a queue message handler VI. It's doing just acquisition, pretty simple stuff. Let's say I'm having a problem with this guy though, and I can't figure out the order that my messages are firing in. I think something might be wrong with that. So I can set a new history probe. So if I do custom probe and go to history string, now when I run this VI, you can see the history of that string wire that I just probed. So every value that has ever flowed through that string wire, it's not a string array, it's just a string, but we're seeing a history of it, is going to show up in that probe. And now when I exit, and then I can go scroll through and see, all right, what are all the values that went through that string, and where did it, oh, I see, here's where, I thought this was going to be the order, but it got switched around. We've got history probes for all the built-in data types. This is a use case where a string one is really useful. Obviously, you might need to see the history of a numeric wire, or a Boolean wire, or a path wire. We've got history probes for all those wire types.
Timestamp?
What was that?
Timestamp?
Timestamp? What? Oh, you want to see the history of a timestamp?
No.
You shouldn't use timestamps. They're so confusing.
Timestamps on the history.
You want to see a timestamp in the list? No, we don't have a timestamp in the list.
Can I see the update time by release?
So this value right here, I don't do anything with that value in the custom probe. So cool thing about custom probes is you can make a new custom probe based on an existing one. So if you want to add your timestamps, Jeremy, or you want your millisecond time resolution, start with my custom probe and you can keep it. But I'm not supposed to be talking about things you can do in LabVIEW. I'm supposed to be talking about stuff that's shipping with LabVIEW today. So stop distracting me, guys. All right. So I'm going to keep moving on. This is a summary of the cool things that I showed in that debugging demo to help you be a faster LabVIEW debugger. So in my last section, I want to talk about knowing your toolbox. There are a lot of things to know about LabVIEW. There are, at every single release of LabVIEW, it may not feel like it, but we've got new VIs, we've got new functions, we've got enhancements to the language and enhancements to the editor. This slide shows an example of like a cool new efficiency-related feature that was in every LabVIEW release since 2012. There were a lot more features than this, but I just went through, and you know how I found those? I read the upgrade notes. If you don't read the upgrade notes, you will not be familiar with the new features that will help you be a faster LabVIEW programmer. Now, when people tell you to read the documentation, you usually like give them the finger and don't listen to them, right? But this is a case where reading the documentation, specifically the upgrade notes, you're going to say, I can't believe that's in LabVIEW, or I can't believe that was in LabVIEW 2015 and I never noticed it. So, as an example, I'm going to do a good, better, best writing a VI that does something that we have written VIs for many times, which is removing duplicates from an array. So let's make an array. Have you guys seen these NXG style controls in LabVIEW? I think they are fantastic. I think they look really cool. They're nice and minimalist. But first, we're going to write a VI that is removing duplicates from an array. So using quick drop, of course, we are going to come in and check an existing array to see if it has the element that we are searching for. That's not a string. It's numeric. And if the element is in the array, is not in the array, we will add it. And if it is in the array, we won't add it. And then we will see if our VI works. I should probably put some values in there first, right? All right, so we removed all the duplicates from our array. We had a bunch of 1s and 0s and 2s, and we removed those. If you had to write a VI that removed duplicates, that's probably how you would have done it, right? You would have done something similar to what I did. Well, if you don't pay attention to the upgrade notes, you won't know about a new feature in LabVIEW called sets and maps, which make this code a lot simpler to write. So here we have a function called insert into set. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a set out of all of those values in our array. And if we find something that is not already in our set, we are going to add it to the conditional output. And otherwise we're not. And now if we run the VI, we can see that that also works to remove duplicates. And I would contend that that bottom diagram is simpler to write because it's 2 nodes. And I also guarantee you that it is more efficient than the first diagram as well. So if you installed LabVIEW 2019 and you didn't read the upgrade notes and you didn't attend my presentation, you would have still continued to write the top picture, hopefully cleaner than how I wrote it, but you would still continue to write the top picture to remove duplicates out of an array. If you knew about sets and maps, like if you're Christian, you would say, let me go ahead and use sets and maps and write that code down there because it's more efficient and it uses less nodes and I can do it faster. Sets and maps. I'm not done talking about those just yet. So, but if you read the upgrade notes for LabVIEW 2019, you would also know that remove duplicates from 1D array is a shipping function that you can just wire your array into. So, hopefully I've made my point here. There are things you can learn about LabVIEW, ways you can change your programming behavior. And just to be, that function uses sets and maps under the hood. But I didn't have to write it, I just dropped it from QuickDrop. And the built-in VI is even better because if we decide, those are strings that we need to do and not numbers, the top 2 pictures break and the bottom one doesn't because that's a malleable VI. If you don't know about malleable VIs, you should. They're a way better version of polymorphic VI, basically. So, the question is, does the map act like a C++ map? Give me a few seconds and I will defer answering that question. So, read the upgrade notes of LabVIEW. Yes?
Can we get a non-type specified empty array?
Can you get a non-type specified empty array?
Like the thing that broke your second example, right?
Yeah.
The shift register had an array constant.
Mm-hmm.
Could you come up with something that you could connect to that would reset your shift register?
All right, I don't have time for this one. I'm going to show you anyway. So in my VI, you notice that the second diagram broke because we had this type specified guy right here. Why didn't this sub-VI break? Because that's how you make an untyped specified array inside of a malleable VI.
Oh, but
I'm not going to explain what's going on there, but it's possible. So yeah, there's not a node to do it, but that's the trick that you use to do it. All right, so read those upgrade notes. Learn about sets and maps in LabVIEW 2019. 2 fundamental new data types. Did you see the wire? It looked like a little snake or something. It's like a weird new pattern on the wire. So got 2 new data types in LabVIEW. And we've got some new utility VIs in LabVIEW as well. For example, remove duplicates from 1D array. I just demonstrated that one. We've got a couple of VIs for very easily converting between a delimited string and an array of strings. I do that all the time. I get so sick of dropping the array, is it array to spreadsheet string or spreadsheet string to array? Okay, I've dropped it. Oh crap, it added that end of line on the end, so I got to do a trim white space. Just use these VIs now. You don't have to worry about it anymore. How long have you wanted random number range? That ships with LabVIEW now. Now you can tell it, I want a random number between 0 and 10. You don't have to do 0 to 1, multiply by 10, round to positive infinity or minus infinity. Just use the sub-VI. Give us a folder, we will make that folder and any folders that are required for it to exist. These are all things that are in QuickDrop in the palettes in LabVIEW 2019. And these are all things listed in the upgrade notes. When you do open, create, replace file, but you're telling it a path to a file inside of a folder and that folder doesn't exist, the function gives you an error. This function does the same thing, only it doesn't give the error, it makes the folders for you. We have a new node called wait for configured network. This is particularly handy in RT apps where your RT VI is doing all sorts of network stuff, but you kind of need to be connected to the network first. So this VI, you basically see at the beginning of your RT VI, it waits until, yeah, we've got the network connection, then proceeds. Synchronized data flow. This was an idea from Jeff K. So you drop a flat sequence, right? Because you've got a place in your code where all this stuff needs to happen before the stuff over here happens. So you drop a flat sequence and you wire the wires to its border so that everything can get there. This is just a simple little tiny node you can drop on your diagram that does exactly the same thing and takes up a lot of space. All right, so sets and maps. Christian is giving a presentation on sets and maps tomorrow, which you definitely should attend because
Today.
Did they move it?
Yes.
That's right. When is
Supposed to
it?
be today is.
In what room? All right, this slide is out of date. Right after my presentation, go to room 13B to learn about these two new fundamental data types in LabVIEW that are much more efficient ways to store sets of data and lookup tables. All right, so I'm going to talk real quick about hidden gems. How many of you have seen my hidden gems presentation? All right, most of you have not. Hidden gems are VIs that ship with LabVIEW that are not in QuickDrop or in the palettes, but they're still really useful. I've got a whole web page about it, ni.com/hidden gems. Go there and learn about all these cool, unsupported, but still really useful VIs that ship with LabVIEW. You can download on the Tools Network a palette set that will install palettes that expose all of the hidden gems for you so that you can drop them with QuickDrop or with the palettes. At that page, we have a discussion of all the hidden gems that are added with every LabVIEW release. In 2019, I think we added about 4 new hidden gems. We've already got a post up about that. So don't reinvent the wheel. I hate it when somebody comes to me and says, hey, check out this cool VI I wrote, and I say, that already ships with LabVIEW. It's a hidden gem. So learn about all the hidden gems so you don't waste time writing those VIs that already exist and are already part of LabVIEW. All right, so I'm done, everybody. Thank you for attending. Your takeaways from this presentation are, use QuickDrop. That's mainly your only takeaway. But if you want more takeaways, read the upgrade notes and use more efficient programming techniques with features that maybe you aren't familiar with, but you'll learn about when you read the upgrade notes. I do not receive extra compensation from NI for presenting at NIWeek. I get by on all of your positive reviews. So please go to the survey after this and let me know if you enjoyed what I had to say. That's all the time I got. Darren, if you have a question for me, come up and ask me. I'm done. Thanks, everybody.